My name is James Goldberg, but I go by Jimmie. And my wife Kathy and I own and operate a home care company based in Palm Beach County, Nurse Registry. Name of the company is Safe and Steady. We've been around 10 years. We got into this out of necessity when my old man took the dreaded fall, and my mother's world was completely turned upside down. And by luck, my lovely wife happens to be a registered nutritionist and was working at Mount Sinai when we lived in Manhattan and was on the geriatric floor. So with that said, the transition was pretty smooth. She slid right in and we just all followed, and 10 years later we're taking care of clients all through Palm Beach County. Your loved one falls, blows out their hip at 80, 70, 80, 90 years old. They're going to go to a hospital. Most likely they're going to be operated on. Then they're going to spend a few weeks in a rehab, learning how to walk again, learning how to sit up again, all these things. Then they're going to go home. But they can't go home unattended. These hospitals will only discharge you knowing that you have professional in-home care to take care of your loved one. That's where we step in. So when the client is returning home, they're returning home with someone who is there to keep them safe and comfortable, but most of all, personal attention, so they don't injure themselves again, or they don't take the wrong medication, or they don't wander away. There's a lot of bad things that can happen to a client post-op. So first couple of months that they're home are crucial to make sure we get them home and keep them at home and get them healthy again, get them eating again, get them exercising again, and giving them someone to interact with. Some of my clients, they sit and they'll watch the news. They love sitting with the caregiver. They explain the news to the caregiver. The caregiver explains the news to them. But it's some interaction. You know, to just leave someone at home to rot, it's terrible. And I've seen it. So you get a nice caregiver in there, someone who cares, and they have a friend. They have someone to do things with. And important stuff, too. I don't know about you, but I don't need my mother driving herself to a doctor's appointment and driving herself back. The caregiver takes her, walks her in, helps her with her paperwork, and brings her home. That's what we do. We put caregivers, some skilled, others non-skilled, in people's homes. Either their homes, apartments, their condos, their co-ops. We have clients living in assisted living facilities that use caregivers, and we have clients that are in hospitals that will only go in there as long as they have a caregiver once they're out of surgery, their own personal caregiver, which between you, me, and the wall is the best money you can ever spend when someone is in the hospital. We've had clients in intensive care with a registered nurse just sitting by their side the whole time. And that was in intensive care. We've had other clients that are in private rooms. Here's the real difference. We have clients living in some of the nicest assisted living facilities around, nicer than my home. I mean, magnificent. But that client can't get the lid off a jar of peanut butter. Now, she can buzz and wait for someone from the facility to come and help her, and they'll get there, but it could be 5 minutes, it could be 10 minutes, it could be 25 minutes. When you have a caregiver there, you're not waiting. You're getting it done. And you know what? When you reach this age of most of our clients, and they're living longer and longer, in their 80s and into their 90s, they shouldn't have to wait. The patience, it shouldn't be their virtue. At that point in their lives, we try to make it as quickly as we can to keep them happy and comfortable. That's what we do. In a nutshell, that's what we do. And we try to do it better. So we service the entire county from Jupiter down to Boca. As far as when people can call us, our phones are active 24/7. Once we leave this office, the phones are then forwarded to our cell phones. So we never miss a call. And for any reason we do, we'll call you right back. As far as our hours of operation in the office, we're 9 to 5. But as far as hours of operations with our clients, it's 24/7, 365. Within home care, there's certain caveats that the average person isn't just unaware of. There's plenty of times I get calls, well, you know, I only need someone a couple hours a day, a few days a week. Me personally, I would fill every case if I could. But the problem doesn't come from the agency, it's the caregivers. All these caregivers down here, or a majority of them, are independent contractors. They're 1099 employees. So a caregiver may be doing 20 hours a week with me and doing another 20 hours a week with a different agency. So a good caregiver is looking for hours. A good caregiver is not going to take a 9-hour-a-week job. And if they do, they're going to do it as a favor to me until something else comes along. We try to ask our clients to do anywhere between 15 and 20 hours per week. Because at least on that, if I can get a good caregiver in there, that's enough of a base that if I find her another job with another 15 hours that it don't conflict with your time, she's happy and both of my clients are happy. We started this in 2010. Previous year, as I said, my old man took a spill, and I was up in New York in an industry that was taking it on the chin. My wife and I had 2 very young kids, and we were like, you know what? This is something that is needed. And we came down here and we started as a companion agency for about 1.5 years, which is no hands-on care at all. No transferring, nothing like that. Strictly companion work. And we did our due diligence. And then over time we applied to get a nurse registry's license. And within 1 year we had it. And then from there on we started working in a small physical therapy office. And we moved in here about 7 or 8 years ago. And we base everything out of here. Caregivers come here, whether it's to fill out applications or update their information, pick up their paycheck. Well, some of our clients come here too. Of every industry I've ever been in, this is the anti to everything else you've ever, it's business, not personal. It's all about the dollars. It just doesn't work that way. First of all, if you do not care, if you don't have a soft spot in your heart for helping other people, this is the wrong business to be in. It just is. Go become a banker. The more greedy you are, the better you are. This is just not that industry. The things that people should know, they already know, but it is never more prevalent in this business. Very simple. You get what you pay for. I am not the cheapest. I'm not the least expensive agency. We're not the most expensive agency. We're competitively priced. But when someone comes back to me and says, well, I can do this for $4 an hour too, you're going to get what you pay for. You're going to get that disconnected, unconcerning, cell phone using caregiver who's just watching the clock, just looking to get out of there. That just doesn't fly with us. The caregivers that we know what's expected of them. And they do. And you got to understand something. Until you have in-home care, you have no idea what goes on. I tell every client, no matter how wonderful this caregiver is, and she is, the phone is going to ring on a Sunday night at 7:30. Somebody's sick, somebody passed away, someone got in a car accident, I have to go back to my country. It will happen. Now it's the agency that's made of metal that just picks up the ball and makes sure that come Monday morning at 7:30 a.m., a proper caregiver's there who's been briefed on your situation. That's the biggest caveat that most people have no idea. It's a world of difference when you meet a client deal with a client for the first time who's never had care than when you deal with a client who's had care before. They know the ins and outs. They know what to expect and what can be the issues. So that's what I would tell you. Listen, we never tell people how to spend their money, ever. But this is the last thing you want to be cheap with. I understand you're buying a car and you're like, you know what? I don't need a rear view camera. I can still turn my head. This business, it's different. Listen, we pay our girls a lot. We pay our girls and guys more than the average agency because we want to keep them and we want to keep them happy. We carry insurance and the caregivers carry their own insurance. And knock on wood, we have not had any real issues with that. Background check for this industry is a level 2, which is basically an FBI database. Fingerprints, submit it. When we get the results, when George gets the results, George is the guy who sets this up because today, a caregiver can't just go willy-nilly into an agency and get fingerprints. They have to have almost like a prescription from an agency. So George will set that up. Girl does her fingerprints. We will get the results in due time. Now, the results will either say eligible or non-eligible. If they're non-eligible, it doesn't tell you what they did. It's just they are not legal to work as a caregiver. Believe it or not, we take it a step farther, and either Cindy or Tanya will just Google the person. And as the works today, if they have a record, or if they've been arrested, or even if it'll show up. Most important part is Kathy checks the references, calls these people up, and gets the true skinny on what these people are all about. And you go through those phases of background on these caregivers, because most of them are just hardworking, honest people. And some have made some stupid mistakes. And there's nothing we can do about it. But that's where that all works from. That's the background check we do. But the proof is in the tasting. We really, really, really try to use girls we've used and guys we've used before on new clients, just to get our feet wet. Even if it's a caregiver, we only put it on a temporary basis for the first week until we find somebody else. But we like to start with people we know, just so we know what we're dealing with, because every client is different. And the biggest thing I tell our clients, you hire privately. Sunday night the phone rings. I can't come to work tomorrow, Mr. Jones. My kid has to go to the hospital. What are you going to do, Mr. Jones? You're going to go on Craigslist? You're going to start interviewing people in your... I don't think so. That's why you have to have an agency, because these caregivers work hard, but they're independents. They come and go. They don't have to give 2 weeks' notice. Caregiver is doing 20 hours a week with me, all of a sudden gets 40 hours from another agency. She's leaving in a day or two. So you got to be prepared always to fill these cases. That's important.